An oasis of peace at the heart of the capital. I'm in Berlin visiting the Bauhaus Archiv. One reason why it's so quiet right now is that the museum is closed for renovation. The Bauhaus School was founded in 1919, and next year will mark its first centennial. What better time to retrace its footsteps through Berlin? How did the Bauhaus, quite possibly history's most influential modernist school, shape Germany's capital?
Bauhaus in Berlin. What was that like, and what still remains? That's what I want to find out today through art, architecture, and chocolate.
Also on the show, a local's recommendations for Cork in Ireland. Our viewer video will take us on a tour through Cambodia. And we'll explore a Bauhaus UNESCO World Heritage Site. Berlin's Bauhaus Archiv is set to remain closed for a few more years due to extensive renovations. In the meantime, fans can still get their fix at a small outpost, the temporary Bauhaus Archiv, in this landmarked retail store in the district of Charlottenburg. Here, you'll not only find a carefully curated shop with iconic design products, there's also plenty of information on the history of the Bauhaus Archiv. Esther Kleven shows me plans for the new archive. A large glass tower by the front will certainly make it more visible. What makes the Bauhaus so relevant even 100 years later?
Bauhaus is a fascinating topic because the movement is intimately linked to German history. And now, in light of the upcoming Bauhaus anniversary, we have the opportunity to shine a light on its role and impact. Take, for example, the last 30 years of research on the role of women, or how Bauhaus students and masters fared in the Third Reich. We can now bring these topics into the open and talk about why we are so interested in the interwar period. We can talk about its optimistic elements and where it might have failed in the exchange between society and creativity. All these topics are related to Bauhaus.
Das sind alles Themen, die in den Bereich des Bauhauses gehören.
Before continuing to follow the footsteps of the Bauhaus here in Berlin, I want to give you guys a brief overview of the legendary school's evolution and how it came to travel from Weimar to Dessau to finally end up here in Berlin.
The Bauhaus School of Design and Architecture originated in the university town of Weimar in the early 20th century. Here, architect Walter Gropius merged the Academy of Arts and the School of Arts and Crafts into one institution. His aim was to join art with craftsmanship. Renowned artists like the painters Wassily Kandinsky and Paul Klee soon joined. Together, they pioneered a new language of colors and forms. The Bauhaus design came to be known for its functional and elegant aesthetics. It was meant to improve people's day-to-day lives. Weimar's Haus am Horn was the first building following the Bauhaus design. Its cubic shape is distinctly minimalist. In 1925, Weimar stopped funding Bauhaus. The school relocated to the industrial city of Dessau. Here, Bauhaus engineer Hugo Junkers designed things like gas heaters and aircrafts. At first, Dessau was happy to host the Bauhaus School and even afforded it a brand new building.
Many people in Dessau were a bit shocked. They'd never seen architecture like this before. It was an entirely new approach.
Next door, typical Bauhaus housing was built for the professors, or masters as they were called. Their uniform exterior belies the varied interiors. It ranges from bright and colorful to white minimalism, depending on what the inhabitant preferred. Even the furnishings were created by Bauhaus designers. Dessau commissioned Bauhaus architect Walter Gropius to draw up plans for the city's new unemployment agency. In 1928, he was succeeded by Hannes Meyer as Bauhaus director. He oversaw the construction of Dessau's 5 houses with balcony access for low-income residents. People's needs over luxury mansions. But in 1932, the Nazis drove the Bauhaus out of Dessau. Its last director, Mies van der Rohe, oversaw the move to Berlin. There, it was shut down by the Nazis again. Bauhaus in Germany was gone, but not forgotten.
People had to wait until after World War II to see former Bauhaus architects bring their ideas back to Germany. Not far from the famous Potsdamer Platz, you'll find another Bauhaus-related construction site, the Neue Nationalgalerie, built in 1968.
The Neue Nationalgalerie was designed by the Bauhaus's last director, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. In 2018, this icon of classic modern architecture turned 50. The design definitely stood the test of time, but updated safety and conservational requirements forced it to get a bit of a facelift.
There's lots to do, repairing damages, installing a modern AC. This is the first overhaul the 1960s museum has ever undergone, and it is much needed. The Neue Nationalgalerie was designed at Mies van der Rohe's architecture firm in Chicago. The former Bauhaus director had emigrated to the United States in 1938. But van der Rohe's plans were originally drawn up for an entirely different project.
He had designed a building for the Bacardi company in Cuba, with a glass hallway and a basement for the administration. But they never followed through with the plans because the Cuban Revolution happened, and Bacardi had to leave the island. Since Bacardi couldn't construct it, the plan was basically shelved. Then van der Rohe got the Berlin Commission and adapted the plans to the new project.
Construction began soon after. In 1965, Mies van der Rohe, by now an old man, traveled from the United States to Berlin to celebrate the laying of the first stone. The project was close to his heart.
I dedicate this to the delight of the people and in service of the arts and the mind.
Installing the gigantic 1,200-ton steel roof posed a major challenge. It had to be lifted very slowly. Mies van der Rohe watched carefully from his car. Heinz Oerter recalls the moment.
He and his grandson were in the car. They drove underneath the roof, got out, and truly relished watching this vast new space take shape. It was a special moment for him.
Unfortunately, he was unable to attend the museum's inauguration in 1968. Mies van der Rohe passed away in 1969. The Neue Nationalgalerie soon became a major architectural landmark in Berlin and a cultural hotspot.
This combination of glass, stone and steel is exemplary. It bears testimony to and marks the culmination of a long process of designing open spaces.
Mies van der Rohe's grandson, Dirk Lohan, inherited the rights to the building. He now ensures that his grandfather's architectural legacy is preserved.
It made him proud to be able to build a structure like this in his hometown.
The restoration of the Neue Nationalgalerie is set to be completed by 2020.
Work on the Neue Nationalgalerie will still take a while. In the meantime, you can visit another creation by Mies van der Rohe in the Hohenschönhausen district, a 1933 country house built for the owner of a print shop. In your view, what makes this house so special?
Well, I don't know about you, but most people tend to feel at ease here. The large windows create a feeling of vast open space, of freedom and openness. The inside is flooded with light. It has beautiful proportions. All of this creates a distinct feeling. That's why I asked you how you felt earlier. When visitors come, they tend to just feel good. Mies was a master at creating well-proportioned spaces.
What is the house used for today? I see some pictures on the wall. Is it a gallery space?
Als Galerie genutzt oder?
Yes, it's mainly used to exhibit modern art. Buildings like this by Mies van der Rohe are grand and create spaces where so much can happen. It can be transformed with each exhibition.
Und das Haus sich auch immer mit den Ausstellungen verändert. Und deshalb
And we deliberately look for people who fit the building and match Mies' unique style.
und die auch sozusagen in der Qualität.
Right now, we have works by Sebastian Stumpf on display. He's a photo and video artist, and as you can see, his works take a humorous approach to furniture designed by Mies.
Möbeln beschäftigt. Das ist ungefähr ein quadratisches Grundstück.
This property is shaped like a square. Mies had this house built on the northeastern edge of the square in order to have a large garden. You can see that neighboring houses were built in the middle of their respective properties. This is another example of his special talent for cleverly arranging buildings on a plot.
Sozusagen so ein Gebäude auf dem Grundstück anordnet.
A country house with a yard in the middle of Berlin. Not bad.
I don't know about you, but I just can't get enough of this green. That's why we're hopping on over to Ireland, the Emerald Isle. In this week's Meet a Local, our viewer John Kennedy is taking us on a tour of his hometown, Cork.
Fáilte go Corcaigh. Welcome to Cork, as we say in the Gaelic language. I'm John Kennedy. I want to welcome you to Cork, Ireland's real capital city. Cork, it's got an amazing atmosphere. It's a young city, a student city, great pubs, friendly people on the banks of the beautiful River Lee. So this is why the Vikings founded a city here, the River Lee. Now, over 1,000 years ago, this area was a marsh containing many small islands. And that's why the Vikings founded a city, because from here they could trade and raid with the interior. And Cork, the name, comes from Gaelic Corcaigh, meaning marsh or swamp. Another thing that's special about Cork is Cork has got 29 bridges on the River Lee. Dublin has only got 24. So that makes us the Venice of Ireland. St. Anne's Church was built in the 18th century, built on the site of a much older medieval church. Not only is it a beautiful church to visit, but it's still an active church. Sunday service is held here every week. And the best thing about St. Anne's is you get to ring the bells. You choose the song you want to play, follow the numbers, and just listen to the song. Here in St. Anne's, not only can we get to ring the famous bells, we also have a terrific view of Cork City. So, this is where I get to show you Cork's English market, famous for its locally produced and imported organic produce, but it's much more than that. I come here to buy my fresh fruit and veg. However, I also come here for the chat, to catch up on the gossip. So the English market dates right back to the 18th century. It's called the English market because back then the only ones allowed to own stalls in there were the Protestants, who were known as the English, hence the name the English market. How's it going? You're very busy here today. Every dark cloud has a silver lining, and every silver lining has a dark cloud. So what's the best thing about the English market? It's the sights, it's the sounds, it's the smells. You can smell, you can sense where the food comes from. It's like having the whole world right here in Cork. So how do you finish a day in Cork? Where else but in the pub? This is where you meet genuine Cork people. And I can assure you, when you're in a pub in Cork, you always have a pint of Beamish and you're never alone. So, sláinte.
Bauhaus architects and contemporary innovators built a number of housing projects in Berlin. Known as the Berlin Modernism housing estates, these subsidized homes are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. One example is the Hufeisensiedlung or Horseshoe Estate. What is the essence of this estate?
The motto back then was light, air, and sun for all. The idea was to get people out of their cramped tenements, out of their dark backyards, and build spacious estates close to nature. That's what happened here. We are standing in front of the Horseshoe Estate. It's like the realization of that idea. It was as if new residents were welcomed with open arms. Welcome. This is the home of the new man. There is fresh air, and social encounters are part of the package.
There seem to be lots of parallels to the Bauhaus movement here. Is that really the case?
Sort of. The 1920s avant-garde was well connected and often pursued the same ideas. Strictly speaking, Bruno Taut is not a Bauhaus architect. He neither taught nor studied there, but he played a key role in housing. Unlike Walter Gropius, he was a main figure in the German Association of Craftsmen and the architectural collective Der Ring. But he also realized his own ideas here.
Can you give me an example?
It was Bruno Taut's job to create housing for the masses. The idea was to build affordable worker homes. So they created standardized houses. But Taut was a master at using small variations and extravagant colors to break up any monotony.
Modern architecture helped shape Berlin as we know it today. If you want to see another original Bauhaus construction, you should consider a trip to neighboring Brandenburg.
In Bernau, about an hour's drive from here, the Bauhaus second director Hannes Meyer designed a trade union school. Alongside other Bauhaus buildings in Weimar and Dessau, it's considered a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
In the late 1920s, Hannes Meyer, the second Bauhaus director, and his colleague Hans Wittwer set out to design a trade union school that would provide an ideal setting for learning. Today, almost 100 years after its completion, the impressive building still fascinates visitors, young and old. Like this group of students.
We're here today to gather inspiration for our videos and familiarize ourselves with the Bauhaus style.
One typical Bauhaus aspect here is that this complex was focused on the role architecture could play in facilitating learning. All rooms were built with the outdoors in mind.
Tell us something about this Bauhaus memorial.
Es wurde 1928 erbaut und diente zuerst, Bildung zu vermitteln. Was sehr
It was built in 1928, and its prime purpose was to convey education. That was done quite effectively because teachers and students alike felt a sense of freedom thanks to its beautiful natural surroundings, and the space and nice rooms it provided.
Sehr viel Freiräume und auch schönen Zimmern.
The building complex was meant to encourage communal learning and living. The school is full of incredible features that you often only notice at second glance.
We're now next to the gym. It has a really nice feature. The windows slide open. So in the summer, they can be fully opened. That way the gym feels like it's outdoors, even though it's actually inside. When you look around, you can see clear materials. No paintings or ornaments, just pure functionality.
Sondern reine Funktionalität.
Could you picture going to school here? Yes, the memorial is situated nicely. Bernau is nearby, where you could go shopping. The location is nice. You have many options for spending your leisure time. I could picture going to school here.
Today, true to the Bauhaus spirit, the Chamber of Crafts uses the building for vocational training.
I'm still at the Horseshoe Estate in Berlin. Just like me, you're probably wondering what these houses look like on the inside. Ben Buschfeld shows me one of them. It's been restored to the original 1920s design. Today, you can rent it as a vacation home.
This is typical furnishing from the Weimar Republic era. But it has a few modern touches like this lamp, or some of the earliest tubular steel furniture produced in Dessau.
Time now for one of your travel videos. This week, Michele Finadri shared his journey through Cambodia with us. He started in the capital, Phnom Penh, headed to the coast, and then made his way to Koh Ton Sai, the so-called Rabbit Island. Oddly enough, you won't find any rabbits there, but you will catch amazingly beautiful sunsets.
Don't you think it's perfect and the feeling's worth it when we're getting down, 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 down? Everything you've searched for is right here on the dance floor, and you want it now, 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 now. Don't know what you're there for, bring it over here in the middle of the crowd inside my sound. Seeing through your eyelids, I know you like it when the music gets loud. And I never want another. Come back to me, my lover.
In Berlin, there's plenty of the Bauhaus legacy to discover. Often, it tends to hide in plain sight. Erich Hamann's chocolate factory isn't just a must for anyone with a sweet tooth. It's also a place where you can experience original Bauhaus interior design. Johannes Itten, one of the first Bauhaus masters, designed it in 1928. How did Mr. Itten come to design the store's interior?
Professor Itten and my grandfather knew each other personally. Both sailed on Lake Wannsee. Each had a little boat. That's how they got to know each other.
And Mr. Hamann just said, hey, I have a shop. Want to design my interior? Or what happened?
My grandfather built this in 1927-28. And as far as I know, Professor Itten not only designed the shop, but also greatly contributed to the entire house.
Do people still come to look at the design, or do they mostly come for the chocolate?
Most come for the chocolate, but some are also interested in the architecture. We're listed in several architectural guides, so people want to see that too.
Its design isn't the only thing historical about your shop. Your chocolate is too. What's something I shouldn't miss?
I'd recommend our specialty, bark chocolate. There's only one other manufacturer in Germany that makes this kind of chocolate, but it's produced industrially. Ours is made by hand. You should try it.
The Bauhaus only survived a couple of months in Berlin, but the architects, masters, and directors still managed to leave plenty of traces throughout the German capital. I'm really excited to see what next year's anniversary brings.